All right, we will talk about this particular type of test, which is matching type and the guidelines. So I'm sure you're familiar with matching type. It could look like this. So there are two columns and you're going to match a particular item in column A or a description to a response in column B. Let's talk about first, before we proceed to guidelines, what could be strengths and weaknesses of matching type of test. So if you are looking for your students' abilities to compare, to associate, that this is the matching type could be really a very good type of test. It's preferable than multiple choice because, like, for example, you don't need to repeat, like, for example, if you're constructing multiple choice and you have the same options, you don't need to repeat those set of options. Might as well use matching type. It's easy to score. It's also easy to administer. The weaknesses of matching type is that it's kind of challenging to look for plausible premises or some related items. And of course, guessing is kind of encouraged, if you are not really encouraged, but guessing may occur when you're using matching type of test in your classes. Let's look at this example of a matching type test. So you have column A and then in column B. What seems to be wrong in this matching type of test? If you tell me that it seems like 1939, and of course, you may not, I mean, you cannot say that B is an answer there because by common sense, 1939, it's automatically an A. I mean, a Canadian Prime Minister, 1939. So even if your students did not study, did not attend classes, or have not really developed the skill, anyone can answer this type of test if it's constructed this way. So let's talk about the guidelines in constructing a matching type of test. Number one, it should have homogeneous items, meaning that if you are matching descriptions with possible functions of our laboratory tools, then the students will match a certain type of laboratory tools. Those should be the items. But if you look at this example that I have here, that violates the number one guideline or principle in constructing a matching type test, which that it should have homogeneous items. What do I mean by that? Homogeneous items, meaning that if your column is about maybe contribution or description, then it must all be about contribution or description or definition. And if your column B, if in this example I have here the list of scientists, and then on column B I have the description of their contribution or their highlight of their invention or what. So then this is homogeneous item, meaning all names, all description. And if you notice, in this one, you have what? You have year, you have name, you have equipment and all that. So this is not a very good matching type of test because, again, it's easy to guess, and when students are able to answer, it doesn't mean that they learn. It's just that they were able to determine by just, guess, and not really guessing, but there's a hint already, like 1939. There's a year, that's just the year. It's not an armored car, it's not a name of a person and all that. So that's one of the things that we need to consider when it is a matching type of test. And then, of course, some of the guidelines is that you have to label the columns. You should have column A labeled and column B, but in this one, you can also label their description or contribution, and then column B could be names of scientists, could be like that. Column A could be function of the laboratory tools, and then column B would be the tools itself. So that's another guideline. Number 3, generally write the questions or premises on the left and the options on the right. So you notice that in our first, this is even a violation of your 3rd guideline, of which your column A, they were not properly placed in the column, okay? So what's another hint that will tell you which one should be written on column A and column B? Put the shorter words and phrases in the 2nd column. Okay, so because they are the response. And arrange items alphabetically, because we don't want our students to go up and down, especially if you're giving them a paper to respond to during a test. And generally have more options than answers, or more options than items. Say if you have 5, then you have 7 choices. If you have 10, then you have 12. Because what happens is that when you have exactly 10 items and then 10 choices, it's possible that the students were just able to guess or spot, or it's the only choice left, therefore they're matching that, and then they get a perfect answer, and then we might not be able to really assess whether they know that they know or they have learned. It's just that they were able to match perfectly, and so that will not help us help our students. Another guideline is give clear directions. So in this example, if they are using a paper pen test, matching type, read the statements carefully, because that's the first step when when we ask our students, when we are writing in directions, what is the first thing to do, what is the second thing to do, and then what are they going to do next. So in here, read the statements carefully and then match the description in column A with the scientist in column B, and then write the letter of the correct answer in the space provided before the number. Provide directions. Do not just put their matching type and then assume that they know what to do, okay? And if you're using a paper for the students to respond and you're using matching type, ensure that the whole question, all these 10, all these 5 items, as well as the responses, should be on the same page. And then we can also use matching type to assess higher thinking skills. Okay, let's say, for example, you have here column A statements, example of statements, and column B would be figures of speeches, or they will identify figures of speech. So that assesses higher thinking skills, not just remembering level. Okay, so can you critique this test? You may pause the video and think about it. But if you say that there are repeating choices and this violates number 1 guideline, which is that items should be homogeneous. Okay, so then you are correct. Because if you notice, if you look at it, the principle of buoyancy has led to the invention of principle of buoyancy. So then if you notice, it cannot be intellectually honest, it cannot be a microwave oven, because it's a principle. It cannot be ships and aircraft. So you will notice that that will lead the students to knock down some of the to eliminate some of the responses. And even if they have not really learned, they have not studied, they're not going to school or what, they can because it only are able to, or the choices are now down to a few, one or two, then they'll be able to like guess the correct answer. So again, homogeneous items. What do I mean by that? For every item in column A, column B is a possible answer. Okay, for those plausible options, and especially for those who have not studied, they should be able to say A, B, C. So that's why we said put all names, or homogeneous items could be all names, could be all description, could be all of the same, set. Okay, say for example, this one. What is wrong with this? Can you critique this test? This is a PE dance test. So you notice that the directions may not be very clear. And if you said that it seems that the columns are reversed, or they're not in their right places, you are correct. So you will also know that our students will really have difficulty answering this because they're going to do all those in the step pattern. And so there are PE classes that are like this. This is their assessment. Okay, so those are our basic guidelines when constructing a a matching type of test.